Good morning and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am GM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm going to be taking a look at The Outer Presence. This is a 2015 RPG written by Venger Satanis, and it's it's kind of a Cthulhu-esque kind of theme to it, but set in the 1970s. So different setting than what I've typically seen it. So that's always refreshing. And the idea that came to him to do this in 2015 really does put him somewhat ahead of the curve because I believe most of the more modern takes of the Cthulhu mythos or just that kind of genre of um, sci-fi horror kind of thing just hadn't bloomed yet as we see now. So anyway, without further ado, let's start taking a look at this. Now you can get this on Drive Through RPG. The PDF is free. The soft cover plus the PDF is $9.50. So it is still available, and like I said, you can get this for free, and and take a look at it. It's not very long either, about 60 some odd pages, if I recall, and it includes the game rules and then an adventure for you to play test it out. So anyway, let's move to the actual book. Oh, it's 45 pages. Sorry. I don't know where I got 60 from. So let's zoom in. So this book contains the rules for an old school investigative horror role playing game, as well as a Lovecraftian scenario that takes place in the 1970s. Many times I've wanted to run a one shot in this genre, but the whole character creation and game mechanics always seem to put me off. Noobs prefer simplicity so they can focus on their character and what's going on rather than all of the character's numbers and systemic fiddly bits. As a game master, I'm the same way. That's why I created my own system. It's very similar to Crimson Dragon Slayer, which I have featured on this channel going quite a ways back, but a number of times, but even more simplified. Game masters are free to use the Outer Presence adventure with any RPG they choose with minimal conversion. The most important things are mood, exploring a strange environment, interacting with larger than life personalities, the exciting possibilities that come with facing death head on, pulse pounding action, and coming face to face or tentacle with the untenable monstrosities lurking just beneath the worn veneer of reality. Just quick mention of the artists involved. So the cover art is by Robson Michelle, I guess, or Mickle Mitchell, um, Monstark, Terry Pavlet, Glenn Seal, Bjorn Shuchevik, and Serrano. Cartography is by Glenn Seal. Layout is by Glenn Seal. You had a number of playtesters involved, and Darren Pretty and Fantastic Dimensions for their suggestions, and so on. The key Kickstarter contributors are listed there. So, quick and dirty rules for any investigative horror role playing game. Choosing a career. And so he has a system here where basically you can choose one of these careers or you can roll a d20 to see what your character is starting out with. Now, none of these careers really have an impact other than simply stating that for some for some instances they might get to roll 2d6 and for others only one or for most only 1d6 on the resolution table. And this is a d6 dice pool system. So here's a list of 20 career paths. Players should feel free to decide what they want to play unless the game master would rather roll randomly. Um, Note that these are general categories. Players may want to narrow their field of specialty. Doing so should also combine one or more aspects of another career. For instance, an artist who exclusively deals in forgeries such as character would be able to paint exceedingly well and know his art history. All right, so everyone is average until proven otherwise. So characters get a dice pool of 2d6 unless there's a reason not to. There's one or more reasons for a character to have a favorable advantage when attempting his action. He gets to roll a dice pool of 3d6 instead. If there's one or more reasons for a character to have an unfavorable disadvantage, he rolls d6. If there are reasons on both sides, then effectively canceling each other out, then you revert back to the 2d6 rolling. Uh, However, there are some things that the average person just doesn't know. For instance, virtually every character would have serious trouble flying a plane without assistance. At least the dilettante priest politician get to roll a d6. That's better than nothing. Of course, the player may ask if the character can jump in an airplane, fly to the moon, and kick the cheese out of it. Just because it's verbalized doesn't mean it should be considered. The minimum dice pool is 1d6 and the maximum is 3d6, except when using bonuses, and we'll go into the bonus section later on. Known and secret organizations or associations, so there are a number of associations, and again, you can choose these or you can roll them. Here are 10 different. So now we've just added the d10 if you are going to randomize this. The nature of your relationship to the organization is then determined. A d6 roll if you wish to roll instead of just assigning or having the player choose. What drives you onward? Here's here's 8 possibilities. Again, choose or roll. Adding a d8 to the possibilities now. Then the finishing touches human weaknesses. So you can either roll or decide if you're going to take one or more flaws. And you notice there's no mechanics attached to these. It will just be up to the game master to determine whether or not it's a disadvantage in the situation that you're looking to engage in, and so you might only get one d6 attempt, or if it might even give you an advantage um, in the situation that you're in, and so you would get an additional d6 to roll if you're trying to do that. It's hard to think of flaws as giving you a disadvantage, but let's go with the very first one. Say you're an alcoholic and you're in a drinking contest, you're going to have advantage in that. All right. You're going to be able to drink far more than somebody who is not an alcoholic. So the sometimes the flaw can turn into an advantage, and it's really up to both the player and the game master to think about these things and role play it out. Your character is special. Players may choose or randomly roll 3 flaws in exchange for rolling on the table below. With so many weaknesses, the GM and fellow players should probably have a hand in developing situations via role playing so as to make the character's life as uncomfortable, awkward, or amusing as possible. All right. So, what makes you special? I'm going to get down to that. And I kind of already talked about adjusting the advantages and disadvantages based on your role playing and what's going on. So, what makes you special? Psychic abilities, sorcery, only appears to be human, hard to kill. All right. And getting into the hard to kill part, even when he dies, good odds are he'll keep fighting. Every time the character is killed, have the player roll a d6. Anything but a 1, he has survived, but will be good to go in 2d6 rounds. If the result is a 1, then his time is up, basically. He's dead. So the dice pool system, on average, you're going to be rolling 2d6. For really unskilled areas, you might only roll 1d6, and with advantage or in a favorable situation, you might get to roll 3d6. You'll also have an additional dice pool that is based on your character level or the number of sessions that you've actually played with this character. So if this is your first session, you're going to get one extra d6. If it's your second session, then you will have 2d6 in your dice pool that you can pull from during various times throughout gameplay um, as your choice. So, what the numbers mean. So, let's say you're rolling 2d6. All right. And I will do that. Um, I will do that in front of you right now. Although you won't be able to see it, I'm not switching off of this. So I rolled a 3 and I rolled a 2. All right. So a 2 is a failure. All right. You didn't do it at all, or you did it wrong. And a 3 is a partial failure. So I would say ultimately this was just a total failure. All right. It did not, it was not successful at all. So let me try to come up with this. So now I rolled a 6, which is a critical success, and I rolled a 1. All right. So if I'm rolling 2d6 and I rolled a 6 and a 1, I had a critical success and a critical failure, which basically I would say that it's only a partial success. I wouldn't, you can't split the die to 3.5 between a partial failure and a partial success. I would just say it was only a partial success. Um, so anyway, so dice pool interpretation. You should, how should a GM determine if it's favorable or unfavorable? Chances of success by looking at the following 3 indicators: the character's profession, circumstances surrounding the attempted action, and the degree of difficulty or probability of said action. And I already explained that. It's a very, very simple system. You're either going to get to roll a 1d6 if there's a challenge involved, 2d6 normal, and 3d6 if you have an advantage. And by the way, these numbers on the d6, equate to taking damage, which I'll go into later on as well. I have some more interior art here. Optional double rules. So if you roll 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, 4s, 5s, or 6s, you know, um, you can roll on this table here to see what happens. All right. So, 1, a gateway could suddenly appear in the sky, releasing another winged horror. 2, the businessman is not only wounded, but infected with venom. The bite, um, the bite area is now pinkish purple and pulsating. 3 is the villainous sorcerer who summoned the winged horror receives an impression of where the characters are and what they're doing. 4, the next time this winged horror attacks, it'll get a dice pool of 3d6. 5, the creature is impervious to bullets, and 6, it can now breathe fire. All right. So these are all, these are all negatives, right? So these are all pretty much negative things that happen when you roll um, pairs. Combat. So this section works along the same lines as what the numbers mean. Since combat is life and death, I've given some hard and fast rules rather than let you interpret what happens in every single action. The attacker simply rolls his dice pool and the following results occur, determined by the game master. The defender does nothing but hope his opponent rolls low. If it's not a person attacking some force, such as an earthquake or poison at work, the GM rolls if it was some kind of an armed assailant. Mildly dangerous forces get a dice pool of just 1d6. Moderate gets 2d6, and extremes get 3d6. Exploration characters. Wait, where's the? Oh, it's kind of weird. All right. Now, if you're intentionally trying to knock someone out rather than kill them, A result of 4 or above is good enough to do the job. The victim will take up to 2d6 minutes to recover. Weapon type doesn't matter, armor doesn't matter, and we're certainly not going to care about weapon speed, hit points, levels, feats, or anything like that. Investigative horror isn't about optimizing your character to the point of godhood. No role playing is in the genre of investigative horror is about. Did I say no? Oh, I'm sorry. No, comma. Commas are important. No. Role playing in the genre of investigative horror is about exploration, character interactions, encountering strangeness, and solving mysteries. Everything else, including trying to kill people, should take a back seat. So, let's take a look at the dice roll. So, let's say I'm rolling and I'm rolling 2d6. So, I rolled a 1 and I rolled a 2. All right, so rolling a 1 not only couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, your opponent immediately counters, and a 2 was a clear miss as well. So in this case, I would go with the fumble and allow them to make the action. All right. Now, if I rolled a 5 and a 6, I would have kept the 6. All right. So you're either going to do the over or under. At least if I am GMing, that's how I will play these things out. Um, you'll either go to the highest or the lowest when you've rolled a 1 and a 2 or a 5 and a 6. Threes and fours, you basically just go with the you just basically go with the 4 in that case. Killing the nigh unkillable. Let me go back to this. I'm sorry. So if you get a 4, your victim is wounded. Just one more of those and he's unconscious or incapacitated. The condition resets after an hour of rest or 3 hours of continual adventuring, right? So let's say you got hit with just 1 4. Well, one more hit of a 4 will knock your character unconscious, unless again you've reset after 1 hours of rest or 3 hours of continual play. So a second 4 on a die roll will knock you out. If the result is a 5, you've been knocked out, and your victim is either out or incapacitating and unconscious for the next 2 to 6 minutes. 2d6 minutes. If they are hit while incapacitated, they are basically toast. And a 6, if you score a critical success, a roll of a 6, then your victim is dead, barring immediate medical attention. This only occurs if the assailant actually has some kind of a weapon besides his fist, feet, or blunt object. All right, so their fists, they cannot kill you even with a critical strike or blunt object, right? All it takes is a sharp rock, pointy stick, or pocket knife in order to murder someone in a single round. If an attacker is merely punching and the like, the result of a 6 is the opponent is unconscious. Okay. Killing the nigh unkillable, and we get into all of the specifics of gods and their spawn, avatar, guardians, entities, demon lords, and so on. It takes a special kind of weapon to kill supernatural creatures beyond comprehension, usually magic or something especially rare and potent. Although 3 or more adventurers unloading their firearms at point blank range can do the job or fire hydrochloric acid, TNT, game masters should use their best judgment. Um, Resulting that yields wounds and unconsciousness do absolutely nothing to such creatures. If investigators end up killing the unkillable with critical success, the wounded creature merely appears dead and is in a motionless sleep state for 2d6 minutes before rising up to accost the characters anew. Immersion. If a player is really going into character, going the extra mile to take his portrayal and actions stand out, in the good way, a or simulate the kind of story that Lovecraft or Cthulhu Mythos Order might have written. This could be construed as favorable circumstances. Reward the player if possible. All right, you just give them advantage. Bonus dice, which I talked about earlier, you get one per game session, cumulative. So if this is your second game session, then you will get 2d6 dice rolls that you can add to your dice pool. Encountering the weird, so there is the possibility of insanity. So when you encounter this strangely weird and bizarre, the character fully embraces the horror, turning into a desperate and fanatical cultist or devotee of whatever it is that drove them insane. Let's see, nothing happens. 6 is nothing happens, must be the iron will or half a bottle of whiskey. Immediately develops an appropriate phobia, faints for a 4, remains unconscious for 2d6 minutes. The character starts ranting and raving about whatever is going on and just happened, probably attracting unwanted attention. 2 assumes the fetal position, rocking back and forth in a catatonic state. And finally, like I said, a 1 is you basically switch sides. So natural progression, let's see, we're going to go into this. The story is meant to take place in the 1970s, but can easily be modified. All right. I was influenced by such films as Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox, and Jungle Holocaust, as well as the 1960s Johnny Quest television series. I'd definitely take a look at Night Stalker, 1970s television series as well, because that would really fit this genre really well. So and setting. I think Johnny Quest was early. I mean, yeah, it was 1960. So I would go with Night Stalker. So natural progression is easy to get turned around, not knowing what information to give, where and whom the character should encounter first. Below is a basic guide, an outline of how things might logically progress. Definitely feel free to play around with the narrative if you are an experienced GM bored with the usual way. All right, so what the characters were doing when the scenario opens, and we finish off with the aftermath and everything that happens in between. So the history, now we're going to start getting into so there's a whole section here on kind of setting you into the setting of the game, and I'm not going to go too much into that. There are some NPCs introduced here, again, just by name. Um, you're dealing with a tribe. This might be the player characters doing their planning session. Love the artwork. What they were doing. So this is when you first meet and what you're doing or what's going on. This table should have been a 2d6, I guess, but you need a d12 if you're going to do something random there, or pick. First contact, sorry. Further research. Yeah, so this is all setting up for your first adventure. And the first adventure begins. I'm already into it. So here is the Temple of Dark Secrets. Again, love the map work here. I mean, the cartography is awesome, just like the style of it. And I believe this is Glenn Seal was given credit for interior cartography. So awesome work. Yeah, and I'm not going to reveal too much about the adventure in case you're going to pick it up and use it. And but you can see the art looks really cool. And we have a glossary of terms used by the MIPI. It's Venture Satanis, so you have to have tentacles and a little bit of nudity, and then your notes section. So as you can see there, I mean, it's a it's a pretty fully fleshed out, very simple game system to use. Um, you can pretty much get away with just 3d6 for each player, and other than a couple of those randomized tables requiring other dice types, those I think could very easily be modified to either shrink them down a little bit smaller to make them a d6, or to expand them to make it on a 2d12, 2d6 die roll as well. So it looks really cool. And again, you can get the PDF for free, so no reason not to. I have a link to Drive Through RPG, so you can go through my affiliate link for Drive Through RPG and pick it up. And you know anything, if you buy one of the ones that are the $9.50, I will get a bit of a kickback on that. And I always take the proceeds that I get from either my sales on Drive Through RPG for my own materials that I have up there, or through the affiliates link, and I always combine that up and buy future tabletop role playing items off of Drive Through RPG, and then present them here on the channel. So all of your affiliate dollars actually go towards providing more content for the channel. So as always, I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen sometime soon, or possibly in person with some upcoming conventions coming up. This might be a really fun system to bring to a con, for a one shot, and just throw something together. You can grab, like I would grab an old episode of Night Stalker, and or the Night Stalker, and basically take that television episode and a convert it to an RPG, and just run along that. And like I say, you don't need monster stats or anything like that. It's not that difficult to just create something, and then you're just going to say, well, if you do get into a combat with this thing, um, this is the dice pool that you're going to be facing. This is the dice pool that you're going to be using, and then just determine the outcome based on those random results. So, really cool system, Venger. Looking forward to actually testing it out. I probably will, once my account replenishes on drive through. I probably will put in for the soft cover, just to have it on my shelf along with the rest of your stuff up there. So, you know, just keep on working and keep on putting out some really cool game materials out there for us. And thanks again for making me aware of this, and sending me the link for the PDF. So you all have a great day. Take care.